This is the brand new Indian Chief Dark Horse Edition, and I am super excited to share this with you guys. It's the brand new bike for the channel. If you guys saw my last video on some of the differences between Indian and Harley, Hey.
What are you doing with my bike, babe?
You said I could use it for a video, right?
Yeah, but it's mine.
Yeah, but we don't have to like... One second. All right, guys, so I lied. It's actually Leah's bike. So she's gonna take us through it a little bit, and yeah, go ahead.
So this is the 2022 Chief Dark Horse in Illumina Jade Smoke. And when I originally got it, it had a little bit lower handlebars to start, and I wanted it to be more comfortable for me, so I put on mini apes. And then I worked with Fab 28 actually to put on a new exhaust, which is super exciting.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This was their new model of exhaust that they just came out with when they first put this on the bike, and this was the first one in California, right?
Yeah, first one ever.
So yeah. We have a whole video on that we're going to show you guys. That one should be a lot of fun. But sorry, keep going. I'm just excited. And
then I put on a custom seat as well. The original one was fine, but not super comfortable. I actually went with a snakeskin look. So we custom made this with Corbin. And then I actually got the bike at Sturgis. So I have a really fun Sturgis badge on my bike as well that I'm pretty stoked about.
And you can only get that if you get it at the rally, right?
Yes. Yeah, which my dad has on his bike because he got his at the rally too, so it was always a dream to get mine at the rally so I could have that badge.
Yee! So Leah's been nice enough to basically say that I can take you guys through this on a little ride, but I would say for the most part, when you see this bike featured on the channel, it's going to be her riding it. She's hesitant to join up with us crazy hooligans, but we'll see what we can do for her. So anyway, we're gonna hop on here and take you through some of our thoughts.
Alrighty guys, so here we are cruising through Santa Barbara on this beautiful day on the 2022 Indian Chief Dark Horse Edition. Now, again, big thank you to Leah for letting us go for a ride on her bike and feature it on the channel. I think she did an awesome job with the little walk around that she gave you guys, so we can just skip straight into the riding portion of the review. So this bike is a joy to ride, honestly, and I'm gonna get into why and the specifics in just a second. But I think that the first question that a lot of you guys that watch my channel are probably asking is, why not the Sport Chief? It's the new bike from Indian. It's the one everyone's talking about. Why this one? Well, the real answer to that question, honestly, is that we've had this bike now, like I said, since the last time we were in Sturgis, which was, over a year ago now. We just haven't actually featured it on the channel to this point, because it's Leah's bike, and, it's obviously it's up to her, and hopefully she wants to be featured on the channel more, and, we'll go from there. But the other answer to that question, and this is my more realistic answer, is having this bike and seeing the upgrades that they made to the Sport Chief. I don't know. I don't know that I would necessarily need to upgrade. Now, obviously, this is styled a little bit differently than I would usually have it. But that's also just personal preference and all that. But if you're talking about the specific performance upgrades that were made to the Sport Chief, the new suspension, definitely a nice thing. I would have to say the rear shocks on this bike are not my favorite, and that might be something to look into for the future. Maybe the upgraded brakes, but other than that, the engine is actually the same performance package. Now, we're going to talk about that specifically in a second, but the thing that really impresses me about this bike, and I have to just start here first and foremost, is the technology package that comes standard with this bike is awesome. You have this digital gauge cluster here that, because it's this nice little circle shape, it actually still looks like a classic, analog gauge, which I think is awesome. It has so many features packed into this little thing, and per usual, you have all of your controls over here, but it is also touchscreen, which I think is really cool. So I'm gonna actually pull off right here. I'm gonna pull into this little parking lot for a second, and we're gonna just kind of take you guys through some of this, because I actually think that for a mid-size cruiser like this to be, you know, sort of packing in all this tech is actually a really, really cool thing. So you've got multiple gauge clusters here, so you can have just a classic that'll show you speed, tack, all that, or you can go to kind of more of a full look to it where you get a real odometer reading, temperature, gas, all that kind of stuff. You can get a full run diagnostic of your bike, your current ride, a map view if you want like directions and you don't want to have your phone mounted up to the bars or something like that. Music, got your phone, Bluetooth, it's all right here, which, you know, like I said, for a gauge cluster this size, it makes it feel like you have the technology package of a bagger in a little performance sort of gauge cluster, which is awesome. Now, beyond that, comes standard with cruise control. I know that a lot of people have been, you know, kind of fighting for their lives as far as trying to get a Harley cruise control locked in for like the Softail models especially. I think they're starting to come out a little bit more now, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better, but you know, just a nice thing that they kind of throw in from the factory. I think that's a, you know, that's a big plus for sure. Aesthetically, I would actually say a really cool thing with this bike is that they actually have, the first thing that stood out to me was that the air cleaner is on the left side of the bike, which really to me makes sense because you're keeping it away from the hot exhaust and pulling in more clean air, which is awesome. Now, speaking of exhaust, I have to say, big shout out to Adam and the guys at Fab 28 because, I mean, you listen to that thing and woo-wee, it sounds good. Now, Leah mentioned it, I mentioned it, we have a whole video coming out on, you know, getting the new exhaust put on here. That was a whole fun trip that we took because, like we said, it was the first of their new iteration of the pipe in California, which is super cool. We'll show you guys a full video on all that and, you know, take you through it. But now we're going to talk a little bit about the performance of this bike. So it's a 116, it's a 116 Thunderstroke, great power displacement, but I have to say, the first time I rode this bike, I was really, really impressed with the handling because it's so light and nimble. It's just really easily flickable, but the power was honestly a little underwhelming coming out of the 114. You know, like my Softail 114, it just felt like there was, I don't know if it was more torque, more power down low, but it just felt more responsive. And I think that that's mostly down to the throttle response in these bikes. Now, the reason I mentioned this, like I said, it was, I don't want to say like disappointing that it was, you know, it was a little undersprung from the factory. That was what it felt like, at least. But the reason being is because, you know, the performance and the technology sort of meet in this bike, and they actually give you ride modes standard from the factory as well. So for those of you guys that don't know, you might be new to, you know, different tech in motorcycles. Ride modes basically mean that your engine will respond different ways depending on what ride mode you throw your bike in. So this bike comes with a cruise mode. What do they call it? Let's see, tour. So touring mode is the less responsive sort of rain mode. It's for where you want your throttle response to just kind of like stay very same and, you know, not really too crazy, just easy, gentle throttle responses, little roll on it. If you're cruising down the highway, you hit a bump, you don't want to do this like, you know, that kind of thing. I'm keeping it in standard right now, which is the way that I rode it when it first came out. But like I said, that felt a little bit underwhelming to me. Then I decided to throw it into sport mode. And we're about to hop on the highway here, guys, specifically so that I can show you sport mode, because, whoo boy, once you throw it into sport mode, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. You just pull the clutch in, hit a button, it's that simple. Once you throw this thing into sport mode, fucking rips. Woo! Man, I will never get sick of that. Woo! Yeah, sport mode on this thing is where you actually get all 116 cubic inches coming at you, and boy howdy, you definitely feel it. I was gonna say it's a really good thing that Leah upgraded her seat, because especially without a fairing on this bike, it wants to kick you off the back for sure. I mean, when we had the stock seat on here and I threw it into sport mode, it really, you are hanging on for dear life if you really try to pin it. So that was where most of the power really started to come from for me, and that was where I started to have a lot of fun with this bike for sure. I've ridden it quite a few times now just to kind of, you know, get a taste and compare it. Obviously, it's Leah's bike, so she's nice enough to let me ride it from time to time. It's a super, super fun bike. It's you know, it's definitely very, very different from the Softail. It's a different power response, definitely feels a lot lighter. It feels like you're just kind of sitting on top of the bike a little bit more. It's a split crowd as far as Indian and Harley is concerned, I know that, but for me at least, I really just enjoy riding both bikes. I love riding this bike. I think it's awesome. And you know, if you guys are thinking about going the Indian route, maybe look into doing like a 2022 model instead of one of the new 2023s. Save yourself a little bit of money, because honestly, I don't think you're missing out on a ton. We'll see what we end up doing more with this bike. You know me, I can't resist customizing a little bit, so I'm going to try to convince Leah as best I can to do some little bits and bobs here and there. You know, we might look at doing like some pegs, maybe get a fairing on here for longer trips at least, but you know, just some little things here and there, so I'm sure you'll see more of this bike. But either way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the ride review here and got a little bit of a sense for what this thing is all about. Like I said, it's, especially once you throw it into sport mode, it is an absolute joy to ride. So let me know what you guys think. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know, do you like these bikes? Do you like Indians in general? As always, I love interacting with all of you guys that choose to come and hang out with me on these rides, hang out for the videos. You guys are the best. So as always, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the good YouTube stuff. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Later!